Hey folks, welcome to Friendly Orbit, the podcast that draws us together no matter how far we fly. I'm Ceres, Sea Rat Supremacist, and I'm joined by...
Thea, and you're free to check my underwear for any trickery.
We're recording out in nature again in case you hear any weird noises, but beyond that, we're talking about Cowboy Bebop.
Yeah, finally.
And we're back with Watcher Botch. So you remember how in the misty days of yore, when we did like our first or second one of these, you said, hey, you know what is also a space western from roughly around the 2000s? Cowboy Bebop. And I thought to myself, you're goddamn right. We should watch that too. So yeah, that's what we're going to do today. We're going to watch Cowboy Bebop. We're going to, for about 1.5 hours, we're going to judge what we see, and based on that, make the decision of whether or not we'd like to watch more.
Ignition sequence start. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff.
And we're back. We totally watched the show in between this and the intro.
Wow, it's been 1 hour and 30 minutes, and that popcorn sure was delicious.
It was. So we watched, so Cowboy Bebop is a TV show that came out in like 97, 98, I believe. 1997, 98 for any time travelers. It has 3 seasons, I think. It's an anime, so, the original is in Japanese, but, you can get a subbed or dubbed version on Netflix, whichever you prefer. We watched it with subtitles, but I don't think that should really make a difference. It's a space western anime that follows the crew of the Bebop, which is a spaceship. And we have all of our protagonists are crewmates of the spaceship who fly through space doing space western stuff. Kind of like Firefly and the classic space western sort of genre, just trying to keep flying, just kind of trying to keep money. The crew of the Bebop are bounty hunters, and are like very much main character of the show is Spike, who's sort of he's the cowboy. He's a bounty hunter. He wears a suit. He's sort of handsomely disheveled in his suit all the time, and it has kind of this sort of careless air that he carries with him as he goes about. He's a martial artist, and he seems very bad at getting paid. And then his second in command is, what's that guy's name again?
I don't remember.
I don't remember his name. He's got a sick-ass beard, sunglasses, a scar,
Robot arm.
a robot arm, a scar over one eye. He's definitely the chef of the ship, but also seems to be the one who repairs it, keeps it flying, and sort of is the man in the chair for the missions when Spike goes out. We watched the first 4 episodes. Based on the title art, it looks like there's a character that joins the crew that we haven't met yet.
Jet Black.
What's his name?
Jet Black.
Jet Black. I thought you said Jack Black. I was like, that's
surprisingly
crazy.
similar.
Holy shit. Jack Black. You know they should have cast him in the live action.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I heard it didn't turn out very good anyways, so they might as well. Just make a joke.
Have him do some sick mealy mouth riffs.
Yeah, or just some kung fu. Yeah.
I know kung fu.
Yeah. I think, yeah. No, what I would do if I was seriously doing that, what I would do is I would include Jack Black as like a cameo in a scene, and just have Jet Black and Jack Black lock eyes for a second, and just like nod and just say, "You get it."
You get it. That's handy. So we had those 2 characters. They sort of start together on the ship, but during the course of the episodes, another character, something Valentine, her name was, who's like, she appears to be like an infiltrator, gambler, kind of con woman. Also,
Called Faye Valentine.
Faye Valentine.
Faye Valentine. The names are crazy, man.
Yeah.
Later we have, what's the name of the lady?
It's on the tip of my tongue, but I can't remember.
insane names.
Yeah, the names are interesting. They're definitely. I think it comes from like a Japanese. Like I think it comes from the perspective of like Japanese writers writing Western names in the future, no less, right?
Absolutely.
And so like it might sound a little strange, but I mean they are in the future, so
It has a very similar vibe to how when in Dune there's suddenly like a guy with bagpipes playing
Yeah.
for the Atreides, or how one of the characters called Duncan Idaho.
It's still the craziest name. But yeah, so anyways, that is the crew that we get to know in the first 4 episodes, and we don't really know more about the show.
There is one more character that is added later who's kind of like a young teenage child. She is a hacker prodigy from Earth, and her name is Radical Edward. Radical Ed.
Rad Ed is a crazy name to give a little girl, but you know what? I can't stop you, and I won't stop.
I just saw it. I was like, incredible. That's
okay. But so we watched the first 4 episodes of the show, which cover Spike going and the crew of the Bebop going on a few different bounty hunting missions, trying to make enough money to stay afloat. You know, the very opening of episode 1 introduces us into this concept when Spike remarks that the beef and peppers that Jet makes for him has no beef in it. You know, and he's like, "Who calls beef and peppers beef and peppers when there's no beef?"
Broke people.
And Jet says, "You do when you're broke." So
yeah.
The
first episode is very simple.
Yeah. Very simple, actually. Like it definitely, the pacing of like future episodes picks up. So each episode is only 20 minutes. We watched like 20 to 25 minutes. So we watched 4 episodes in all. And like the first episode, definitely the least amount happens in it, I feel.
Yeah, it's basically a chase.
Yeah.
Of like
Asimov. The bad guy's name is Asimov.
The bad guy's called Asimov. Incredible names. By the way, Radical Ed.
Yeah.
That's just a nickname.
Mm-hmm.
The full name is Edward Wong Hao Pepelu Tivruski IV.
Nice. So it's a nobility name. Yeah.
Well,
it sounds like an 18th century noble.
Yeah, Edward Wong Hao Pepelu. It sounds like there's 5 different bloodlines of 5 different places.
And just to like 100% confirm, Edward is a girl.
Edward is a teenage girl. Is a very strange and extremely intelligent teenage girl of around 13 years.
Not to be all gender normed on you. I was just confused for a moment.
Radical Ed could be considered a free spirit, according to the Wikipedia.
Could be considered.
She is fond of silly exclamation and childish rhymes. That's why in the 90s they called her Radical.
Okay, but let's not spend the whole episode talking about a character we didn't even see.
I'm sorry, but I feel like the less I actually see of her, the better it is.
So, episode 1, there's a guy called Asimov who's escaped from a syndicate with a drug where you shoot the drug into your eyes and it makes you kind of like see red and your heart pound, but also like your reaction time gets much faster and you move much more quickly. But it seems to also kind of turn you into like a savage as time goes. Like you start to lose yourself to some kind of battle rage or something like that the more you take it as time goes on.
Yeah. At some point we even see that he's still into like this battle rage mode, even though he's not drawing the benefits of the drug.
Yeah.
It's like there's lingering effects.
And he seems to have a whole bunch of vials, which seem to go for a whole bunch of wulong, which appears to be the currency.
Which he hides in the fake belly of his fake pregnant wife.
Exactly. That's it. So that's interesting. He's got a female companion who's on the run with him, and she looks like she's pregnant, but we find out through the course of the episode she gets shot at one point, a grazing bullet to her stomach. You of course go, oh, the baby, but then it turns out it's actually just full of drugs. So that was kind of a cute moment. And the episode is just Spike trying to chase them down, doing so semi-successfully, but then ultimately failing in the end as Asimov and his companion, they want to sell the drugs and escape to Mars, especially she wants to go. Like, she's the much more interesting character between Asimov and her. I just unfortunately don't remember her name. But she...
Asimov is such a memorable name.
Exactly, right? I mean, for us, but she wants to go and be on Mars and get out of this life of crime and this life of danger, and retire there. And she's worried about Asimov because he's taking too many of the drugs. He needs to take them to survive the combats that are occurring because the cops are after him and the criminals are after him. But
as they're escaping,
he's losing himself to them as well as they're escaping. And as they're escaping, they fly out into space, chased by Spike, but also the cops and are closing in. And she
shoots him.
she shoots him. She shoots Asimov. She kills Asimov because he's about to like steer them on a death course in order to.
But
like,
then they get killed anyways.
do they get killed or do they get arrested?
No, remember
You're right, it does explode.
the cops just obliterate the ships.
Okay, so this is an important point. There's a later episode as well where there's a bunch of eco-terrorists who Spike captures one of them and wants to turn them in for ransom, but by the time he gets to the government to turn them in for ransom, the government of Ganymede, the moon around Jupiter, also our podcast host, but not that Ganymede, as he turns in
a podcast guest, friend of the podcast,
yeah, as he turns in this criminal, wants to turn them into the government says actually there's no bounty, and what turns out is the government is negotiating with the eco-terrorists, and the eco-terrorists want their mom back, who's this woman who Spike has arrested.
Well, the point is,
and the eco-terrorists, what the eco-terrorists have as a terrorist weapon that they're holding over the Ganymede government's head is this virus called
monkey business.
Monkey business that basically they say there's only 2% difference between the genome of a person and the genome of a monkey, and this virus changes those 2%, turns it back into a monkey.
Which is how DNA works.
Which is, I mean, we'll get into
We've
that.
studied.
We'll get into that in a moment. But
we are educated. We know.
The only point I'm trying to make is that at the end of that episode, the eco-terrorists, the sea-rat supremacists, they're called the Space Warriors, launch their missiles from hyperspace at Ganymede, and then by closing the hyperspace gate in front of Ganymede, it means the missiles never arrive. They're trapped in hyperspace forever, and so are the eco-terrorists. Okay. Why is that weird? Because if that's the case, then the terrorists never posed any kind of credible threat to Ganymede. Like the terrorists launched their threat at Ganymede. Ganymede protected itself easily and efficiently, and there was never any threat.
It's kind of unclear. It's kind of unclear what the exact flow of information is.
Yeah. So the reason that I mention this is that the plots of these episodes can be at times a little difficult to follow, and at times feel like they don't really make sense and just kind of follow vibes. That is something we noticed, but I didn't have a bad time despite that. Now, if I watched it for longer, it might get on my nerves more and more as time went on. But I felt like the vibes of the show were incredibly strong. Like, it was really cool. Every job, they lose at the end. They don't get the money. They're trying to be bounty hunters. They're bad at it. But they have so much charm and so much character, and the artistry, the scenery of the worlds that you're seeing, and all of that. The vibe just feels so perfect.
There's a lot of vision.
Even when the plots don't work out or don't really make a ton of sense necessarily, I still felt entertained.
Yeah, the show definitely has vision.
Yeah.
And it really feels like, yes, this was made before the internet where everyone was nitpicking everything.
Yeah.
There weren't 20 people going back and forth over the script and like until the script becomes some kind of like mush that is hard to nitpick but also hard to enjoy.
Yeah.
This is like, we're purely running on vibes. And on the topic of, these guys keep losing. And like, because it's a story where ultimately we're putting the gang together, whether we know it or not. I think that like the idea is, our first win is when like we have the team together and we're working as a team, and it will feel very great, really great when finally we get the job done and we get paid.
So this is only my impression based off the first 4 episodes, but I actually also had the feeling that it was messaging. That basically being a cop, being a cowboy who brings people in for bounty is, with some characters, like the sea rat supremacist, feels justified and a good thing to do. But with other characters like Faye Valentine, feels actually like you're maybe the tool of an unjust system, right? And I had the feeling that maybe the reason that Cowboy Bebop, or maybe the reason that Spike is bad at being a bounty hunter,
because he has a heart,
is because he has a heart, right? And the show was sort of commenting on that, right? And the show is sort of commenting that like being a cop is maybe not necessarily always a good thing to be in this cosmos, but it's something Spike has to do to make money, and that's why he's bad at it, right? If he was constantly succeeding at locking people away, it sort of gives this sort of propaganda impression, like, hey, he's good at locking people away, and that's a good thing, and we're getting these criminals.
But
off
he's
the
also
street.
free spirit,
exactly,
who plays by his own rules.
But this world is this universe is so much more complex than that. It feels like to me, and like whether or not Faye Valentine deserves to be arrested is maybe a little bit more nuanced. Like, she's being instrumentalized by criminals who she owes a great deal of debt to, but she doesn't want to be, but she's also not really a person with a heart of gold. So I don't know. It felt like maybe more. It was more interesting than just like every week there's a villain and we get the villain, we throw them in jail, and justice is done. Good job.
For sure. I mean, I can even imagine that they go from being bounty hunters to pulling off heists.
Yeah.
Like the heists are no stranger to the Western genre.
Yeah.
So it could totally work. And by the way, Faye Valentine is the character I was referencing about the funny business in my panties.
Okay. Yeah. So here's something.
Sexism.
Sexism. We need to talk about.
Well and alive today and roaring in the 90s.
So, Cowboy Bebop has most of the characters in Cowboy Bebop are men. Most of the women in Cowboy Bebop are portrayed as sexy and attractive and in a very gazy way. There is a whole opening exposition shot in episode 1 that is just like full focus, main frame is the boobs of the female companion to Asimov.
As 3 male characters.
Ogle her.
Ogle.
So it's like not subtle. And I don't think the show is being critical of it. I think the show is into it. Faye Valentine is in a very revealing outfit, has a very curvaceous figure, and we're introduced to her as a casino owner, as she is tied up, and a casino owner not just basically, a casino owner sexually assaults her by reaching into her pants and pulling an ace of spades or ace of hearts or something like that out of her teeny tiny little shorts, right? And the show thinks it's cleverly communicating how she cheats at cards, but it's really just gross, right? I mean, it's just gross.
In the 2 episodes that we've seen Faye Valentine in, the second one,
she's been tied up in both.
She's tied up in a very sexy, like, oh no, what are you gonna do to me?
Crazy, like hand crossed over the head, no other part of her body is restrained. Just like, so.
Yeah, this show, it's not subtle what they're doing with Faye Valentine, and it's not particularly comfortable.
Yeah, exactly. And so, and they did it with the other female character too. So it's not just restricted to her. It's not just she's a sexy femme fatale con woman. Especially because a lot of the ways in which she's presented as sexy, she doesn't have control over in the show. It's not like she's using her charms on other people, which I would find more acceptable. It's other people being,
pervy with her.
Exactly, being like way overreaching boundaries, like with her,
Absolutely.
And her not being in control.
Yeah. I mean, it's a tale as old as time. There's almost like not much to say about it because it's so classic.
There's actually even
on the topic of being critical.
Yeah,
I just want to there's ways to be to present characters ogling a woman and it being presented as in a critical way.
Yeah.
But clearly in those scenes we are meant to be
ogle.
we are ogling alongside those men, and there's nothing to suggest that there's
And those men are in later characterized as like charming and endearing because it's like the idea that every town has 3 dudes like this.
Every town has 3 dudes around the table complaining that things are changing.
Yeah, exactly. Also, there is a moment, I don't know if you noticed it, but there is a moment where like sexual assault is implied, where Faye Valentine is tied up by Spike and Jet in the bathroom, and they say or do something oh, you need to do something for us or something like that, and she goes, I hope you're not thinking of anything weird. And they just throw that in, right? And I was like, whoa, hey,
I remember
lighthearted show about kung fu, smoking cigarettes, and exploring, I don't know, a lighthearted show about a kung fu, smoking cigarettes, and saving corgis.
Yeah,
which is episode 2. We save a corgi from animal experimentation.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden we just throw in, oh hey, but what if you sexually assaulted Faye Valentine while she was while you had arrested her?
Yeah. Do you know kind of do you know the video essayist Lindsay Ellis? She's quite famous.
I am not sure.
Okay. Well, she was kind of like one of the original video essays, at least in the left media analysis sphere. And she made this one, she had this kind of a running series about the Transformer series by Michael Bay, where she was kind of doing media analysis and showing different aspects of media analysis using something as memeable as the Michael Bay series. And she talks about how the series sure has an opinion about women and the
Mhm.
way it wants to portray women, but it sure has an opinion about men
Mhm.
as well, in the way that men are portrayed in relation to women.
Mhm.
Like, I was reminded of that
Mhm.
when watching this. I think I told you yesterday, I was like,
Mm.
this show surely has an opinion about women,
So you
but it
feel
sure has an opinion about men as well. And I don't not saying that it's criticizing these men necessarily.
Mhm.
I'm saying the men in the audience, it sure has an opinion about what the men in the audience are into, what they want to see.
Yeah.
And like, I think that like when she says, I hope you're not thinking of anything weird,
Mhm.
she's saying that because that's also where the brain of the audience member is at right now.
Yeah.
And like, it is kind of where our brains were at, but we were like, they are in a more disgusting way.
Yeah.
And I think that like most of the intended audience in the 90s was there in a less disgusted way.
I was just, I mean, I wasn't there at all. I was like super surprised by it. I was like, what? Not Spike though, right?
I wasn't expecting they
Like-
would do it, but I was thinking like,
Yeah, but I was like, the fact that it would even be insinuated that this might be that something that Spike and Jet would do, right? Was like to me like it was surprising, shocking. I was like, but not these guys, right? I understand if she would say that to the casino owner, because that guy seemed like a smarmy, gross little fuck, right? But
Yeah.
like, yeah, so
sorry, and another thing that I
Mhm.
wanted to say
Mhm.
is I'm in no way an expert in Japanese culture,
Mhm.
but like I want to emphasize how like normalized this kind of stuff is there from my experience. And
Mhm.
my experience specifically is I was in Tokyo.
Mhm.
I was in Akibara, the district of like all things pop culture, manga, anime, figurines, whatever you want.
Mhm.
And I was browsing. I was just like looking around in a manga store, looking at some basic shonen, whatever. And like, there's your Death Note, and there's your Full Metal Alchemist, and there's your Hunter x Hunter.
Mhm.
Death Note is not a shonen. I know that. I'm just bringing up like the
Mhm.
classics, and I'm like, and right there's some hentai.
Mm.
It's like right there.
Yeah.
No, I
Yeah,
mean
not
that
in a
I
special
could say that I
section,
could say
no.
no special section. I just bumped into it
Yeah.
while looking otherwise perfectly normal material. That's my only experience with it
Mhm.
about like the way that it's filtered
Yeah.
in like culture. And like, I know that there's a lot more, I would say, stereotypes
Yeah.
about the country that I will not get into, but
Yeah.
like this was my experience there.
Yeah.
That's what I watched.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know. It was distracting. It was, I think, one of the parts I enjoyed. It was the worst part about the show for me, but I didn't feel that it was so present. Like, I don't excuse it, but also it wasn't so present that I felt it sunk the show as a whole. It's not like the show was spending all of its time on shots like this or all of its time on moments
No.
like this. Faye Valentine has a personality outside of being attractive. She has a
Yes.
skill set outside of being attractive,
Yeah, I
right?
think she's borderline. That's her personality.
Okay.
She's very well. She's extremely impulsive. She has just terrible impulse control. She seemed to choose who she works with and against on a very, situational.
She just has ADHD and doesn't know where the loyalties lie. Yeah, or maybe, yeah, I don't know. I mean, we don't need to diagnose her, but yeah,
No, I'm kidding. But like, she's 30 million in debt.
she is in so much debt, and she spends. She has a gambling problem. She has a bad gambling problem for sure. Which is odd because she's also a cheater. So it kind of implies she's bad at cheating, but that's actually what she's good at. Because like if you were good at cheating, you probably wouldn't have a gambling problem, right? You would. You
could have. Yeah.
You could cheat and you could win more than you
Yeah.
lost.
One thing about the genre of Western
Mm-hmm.
is that I feel like Western is a traditional genre
Mm-hmm.
in which women get by default more agency, I would say, because we tend to have more disreputable women
Mm-hmm.
who are allowed to break with stereotypes more, who are allowed to be gangsters and like thieves.
Who are like free from the social mores because needs must, and people need to get
or
things
even
done.
like the old lady who runs a brothel is usually like a very like smart and usually like a smart person with a sense for business and like a sexual acumen that is not just like, look at how sexy I am, because often she'll be older, but she'll be wise about it.
Yeah. And it's actually very historical, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like running brothels was a huge way that women could achieve influence and money, and is like one of the reasons why a lot of the old West states were early to legalize women voting, because they were a big part of the people who owned land, owned money, Like they were like a strong upper middle class kind of whatever, kind of thing. So it's actually kind of an interesting historical dynamic too, because the effects that you see in media for character tropes were also similar to some of the effects you saw in real life, right?
Yeah. And also in general, like at the frontier where you have fewer resources, less connected, you
Things
don't
are
have the
always less-
time to enforce all this stuff. So it's like someone has to do the hard job, and if we have a woman, the woman's gonna do.
Yeah, things are always less hierarchical in the frontier when resources are sparse,
Yeah.
All right. So
Good things, vehicle design and general aesthetic.
Yeah.
Cool art.
The vehicles were so cool. The vehicles were the best part. Like the way the vehicles were designed. Faye Valentine's ship looks really cool. It looks kind of like the top half. Imagine a mech holding
remove the legs.
Machine guns.
Yeah.
Now remove the legs, abstracted a little bit from this point, but that's basically the form of her ship, which I think is actually a really cool form for her ship. It really visualizes how it attacks well. But it's still small and compact. And I don't know, it felt really cool. I liked how the Bebop looked. I liked how the Bebop's little mini cruiser that they sort of have to actually engage with stuff.
I like that they care to show that, like, in space, in order to brake, you don't just stop accelerating. You have to stop to start thrusting backwards.
Yeah, they turn the thruster turns when they do like sharp turns like that and stuff like that. They showed how like the spacesuits have sort of a localized gravity button where they push the button and it draws them.
I thought those was magnetic things.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Maybe not. It could be also some other force. I mean, I don't know what it is. I just didn't assume it was magnetic. But yeah, like they push a button and it sticks them to the hull. And so in one of the fights Spikes get into, he clicks the button on his opponent's uniform and then kicks them off. And of course they go flying off into space and all of that. So there's some cool stuff. And, they have like these hyperspace gates that look cool and are interestingly designed. I especially like that when you're in the hyperspace gate, there's all these announcements that make it feel like an airport, like this liminal space, and you have to pay fees for going through the hype. And so it feels like an all too relatable and yet at the same time strange, corporate, but also rural kind of world, And it's interesting that they talk about Mars, and on Mars it's so densely populated, people have everything they want.
There's everything on Mars. Mars is so prosperous.
Exactly, and
we're at this stage of like space industrialization.
Of course, for us, we're like Mars is empty, and so it's funny to think.
What do you mean Martians are not all tough warrior Klingons who are raised on their harsh realities of no water?
And they're like, to them, Mars is like London or something. People have been living on Mars for so long.
I mean, Mars could much more be New York than London because it's the colony that grew prosperous.
Sure. I mean, I was thinking of London as the colony that grew prosperous from like the Romans and stuff.
Depend anywhere is the colony that grew prosperous if you go back in time.
Literally, right? I mean, if you go by the Roman myth that Rome was founded by Trojan kings.
At some point, there's like a settlement of like ape humans, and there's the ape humans from the original settlement that is looking at them going like, they forgot where they come from.
Although I guess
we are from this hill.
The furthest you go back is Samaria, right? So we gradually from New York, we just gradually move east as we bounce from London to Rome to Troy to Sumer.
Yeah, at some point it's all. What are the? It's at some point it's all like we're all colonies of Jericho.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I really liked the art style. I mean, it's old animation. Animation was expensive back then. It's not as fluid as it is today. You can see them like saving frames in certain. You'll have an exposition shot of a city that's all one frame that's just slowly being panned down.
But that's fine.
But that's all the
Because also
right?
that frame of the city looks good.
Exactly.
It's a good frame.
The animation was great, and the combat so far have felt interesting. Of course, they're implausible. There's a guy kung fu fighting a room full of guys full of pistols, but they had a way of not feeling implausible, And it's I like how Spike often fails in combat, but he fails with just a little bit of success.
Yeah, he managed to get something out of it.
Like he totally loses his fight against Asimov. But as he's falling to the ground, passing out, he quickly pickpockets one of the vials of drugs off of Asimov, and then he doesn't have it later. And in particular, Spike has it. So he's got this way of failing forward that I think is fun. And I like the ship. I like the opening shots they do of the ship where Spike is just on his own in the training room in the dark of the ship training, and Spike and Jet is on his own cooking, and you just see this revolving hallway that connects all the different parts of the ship just slowly spinning as they idle through space quietly, you know?
Yeah.
I feel like they really got their genre down pat, you know? Like, I feel like they know how to motivate the characters, how to make their characters, how to, like, the first episode is called Asteroid Blues. The asteroid with Faye Valentine is called Honky Tonk Women. It's just perfect.
Yeah, they know exactly what they are doing. They know
exactly what palettes they're drawing from as they're making this. And I'm very interested in still finding out what the data corgi, somehow they saved a corgi that's called a data dog that was taken from a research experiment station.
And it's supposed to be very smart.
And it's extremely valuable as well, right? And so they have that, but we haven't at all, like the show doesn't at all feel the need to explain, like,
what's up with the corgi?
You know how, like, in a modern movie, you would get like a 10-minute flashback explaining everything about this fucking dog? You know what I mean? This show just lets you sit in suspense and not know what's going on. And also, a few episodes later, we get a little chip that has a code on it that can decrypt anything. And it's like, well, actually, we get a little chip that has the key on it to decrypt the code that can decrypt anything. And it's like, are they gonna use that on the data dog? I don't know.
Is the dog gonna talk?
It's funny because it's like the show is episodic, and yet there's overarching elements of the plot that I'm really curious about learning more.
I think we're definitely like in the takeoff phase of the show, where we are building towards the status quo.
Yeah.
Like we're building towards the status quo of the show, and we're not there yet.
Yeah.
And so we feel this like, we're putting together the team slowly.
Yeah. But the show excites me. I want to see more of Jet and Spike interacting. I think they've got a really fun dynamic where Jet is kind of like, he reminds me a little bit of Uncle Iroh. Where he gets really into whatever the episode is about, and he's kind of fun and laid back, but at the same time, he's the guy who bears a lot of the responsibility, the quiet, calm responsibility outside of combat, even though he's the physically more intimidating.
I was going to say, he's big, he has a robot metal arm, but he never fights.
He's not the one who fights, he's the one who cooks. And I love that, man. Yeah. I love it, and I like Spike.
He keeps the ship going. Like, Spike gets the flashy moments, but
and I like how Spike's carefree air, you know, and how he approaches things. So I'm really enamored with the characters, and I like Faye Valentine too. She's fun. I haven't had as much time with her as with Spike and the others, but she's fun too. I like her, and so I have to say the character work is great on the show. I would say so far, at least.
Yeah.
One moment I want to say, talking about nitpicking, right?
Okay.
Let's talk about monkey business, the virus.
Okay.
So we've studied biology.
Okay.
So this is so cool, all right? They're like, here's a virus, and they show a screen with like data on the virus, and you know how like in most movies, if you actually pause and you read it, it's all bullshit. Well, we paused and we read it because it looked real, and it's actually just like a FASTA file. It's a data file of a sequenced genome, or at least a sequenced gene.
And it looks like a correct.
And it looks plausible. Like it's got like the correct formatting. It's got the bases.
It's the gene name, the gene species, the
one
sequence.
Thing is, it's not a gene from a virus. It's clearly a gene from a spiral-shaped bacterium, which is funny because it's so funny that they got it so close to correct, but then not correct.
I have to say something about that.
Yeah.
I wonder. If it's a translation.
Like if it's called a bacterium or like a disease in the
or
like it's like a Japanese word for like
it's
transferable disease that's just translated as
and
virus.
We just went for virus because it's so specific. Like they give a scientific name for a bacterium. They show what look like electron microscopy images of a bacterium. They weren't so deep. I think that it's the translators, because the translators didn't have
one counterpoint though.
Yeah.
If a disease was to edit your genome, virus would be way more likely than a bacterium.
Virus would be way more likely. I mean, my interpretation of it was that the gene comes from a bacterium and it was integrated into a viral genome, which is how you would do it.
The microscopy thing doesn't really make sense because it's like a gene it's clearly based on the name, a gene from a spiral-shaped bacterium, and then they showed a spiral-shaped electron. Yeah, and so it feels like. So it was cool, kind of in a way, that they went so deep on it, and that they kind of almost got it so right. I mean, the whole thing that humans and monkeys share 98% of their DNA is a common myth. Particularly, the first question is just simply on
how do you define it?
Yeah, on what metric are like the number of bases, the number of proteins, the number of amino acids that are similar. Like there's all sorts of different number of coding regions, you know, or just the whole genome, you know, and is the whole genome a fair comparison? Because the coding regions matter the most, right?
Yeah.
So like, it's not really true. Also, there's not like science really backing it up, and also you have to define your metric first to see how much of an overlapper. But
Yeah.
even if the overlap was fairly close, for a virus to edit 2% of the human genome, it would have to be fucking enormous.
How fast is this? I think by the time you have enough virus particles to edit it, that cell is dead.
Yeah, exactly. Like by the time, and also by the time you've integrated 2% of the human genome into a virus genome, the virus is so big, it's got to be like, I don't even know if smallpox is big enough to transfer that big of a viral load, you know? So, anyways, it doesn't really make sense, but it is fun that for those little diagrams, they really went deep and like.
It's like 20% more effort than your average show, and that was nice.
Yeah, exactly. So that was cool. That was a cool little moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the bad guys so far are like, casino owners, big corporations, so like the whole
eco-terrorists.
Yeah, that's true. That's the exception, but like the kind of fighting the man sort of, vibe that you get with Western sometimes that I really appreciated in Firefly is here too. So
yeah. Also, I must say, like the main villain, eco-terrorist, the leader, that woman.
Yeah.
She had a very aristocratic look about herself.
Yeah.
Like she looked like she is some like highly educated freak who put in a lot of money into this foundation, took it over, and then wanted to bomb Ganymede.
Yeah, and also, like, they do their due diligence. Like, they have at least 3 sentences of exposition they didn't need to put in there where they say, oh, these used to be eco-activists. Eco-activists are good, but then they got taken over by eco-terrorists, and eco-terrorists are bad. Yeah. So they clearly are not trying to portray with that episode the idea that all eco-activists are bad. They're just like the ones that use submachine guns to gun down people who eat sea rat. Those ones are bad. You know, the ones that engineer viruses and hold planets hostage or moons hostage, right? Those ones are bad.
Also, I mean, I don't know how much eco-terrorism was going on in the 1990s.
Climate change was still a lot further away at that point. I think they're like thinking of it differently.
Yeah. So, yeah, exactly. And like one fun thing was immediately when they brought up that there's eco-terrorists in this world, my immediate thing was like, what does that mean in this world where we terraformed Mars?
Yeah, because terraforming is clearly a technology they have, right? Like Mars is a big ringed city. Within the city, we have green fields and parks.
We have to the point where we
outside is a desert, yes, but clearly inside has somehow been transformed.
So like Ganymede seems to be like a completely livable environment.
Yeah.
And like we're to the point where we have fake animals. Like the sea rat isn't real.
Well, yeah, is the sea rat endemic to Ganymede or I don't know. I mean, I didn't listen so closely to that one.
I think that the fact
I do think they state whether it's native to Ganymede.
I think like native can mean very different things in this setting, and also the fact that Mars is portrayed as this desolate land with like bubbles of civilization implies that no, the solar system is our solar system.
Yeah.
As we know it. Ganymede.
But isn't Ganymede one of the planets that's most likely to host life outside of ours?
I mean,
and it's probably like if it hosts life, it'd be like some kind of methane-based bacterium-looking fucker.
No, that's
not a sea rat.
That's Titan. Ganymede actually has water, but I think it's all frozen. But it has water.
Yeah, so sea rats.
Yeah, everyone knows the first organism. As soon as that thing melts, sea rats all the way down.
Evolution doesn't love beetles and crabs. No. Evolution loves sea rats. It's the basic shape of animals.
Yes, all the way down.
But
you're either a fungus or eventually you're destined for crab.
Yeah.
Even the coconut crabs.
But yeah, so I guess overall,
watch.
Yeah, I would say it's a watch. I mean, there are like the sexism part did bother me and did make it worse for me, but generally speaking, I'd say it's a watch. I'm interested.
Yeah, I think
these characters. I want to see what they're up to.
Yeah. Is this our last one?
I think this is our last one for now. So yeah.
Do you want to rank them?
Funnily,
we did it. We ranked them in Thea's head up your office, Thea.
So funnily enough, right? We had 4 different shows, and originally it was just supposed to be any old sci-fi, but it turns out they all clustered right around the 2000s. So it's like retro sci-fi.
It's like old enough to feel old, but new enough that we're not lost.
Yeah, exactly. So it's funny. I like how it kind of all fit into that theme, and I don't think I'm going to find another sci-fi show I'm interested in watching that falls right in those years. So I think this is going to be the last, not the last Watcher Botch we do, but the last old sci-fi Watcher Botch we do for a while. I would say It's funny. The space westerns really won it, didn't they?
It's a really good blend, but also like we know, or like and I have learned that there's better Star Trek.
Yeah.
Like there's better Star Trek. So it's not that it's space western, is that the Star Trek that we watched was an awkward one, especially because we read in the Wikipedia our page also that like Star Wars yeah, there you go. Kill me. Kill
him,
me now.
Skewer him in the comments.
Star Trek The Next Generation season 1
Yeah.
and Star Trek Next Generation, literally everything else,
Yeah.
is a very different thing due to Gene Roddenberry.
Yeah.
So
it's his Star Wars prequel moment.
Yeah. As
Where he's like in charge of everything because of the first success, but he really shouldn't be in charge of everything.
Yeah. So that, and also what else do we have?
We had Futurama.
We had Futurama. Right.
I say Futurama really didn't blow me away as much. Like if you give me Futurama or Cowboy Bebop, I definitely rank Cowboy Bebop higher.
Yeah.
Like I was more interested.
Yeah.
Not that Futurama wasn't funny, but it was just in some ways it was cool and interesting and funny, especially in the little details, but in other big ways it was kind of just reality as we know it, and I don't know, a little bit didn't quite hit finding their feet. So I would say, right, the ranking I would do is
Next Generation, the parts that we watched of Next Generation at the bottom,
and then Futurama, and then Cowboy Bebop, and then Firefly. I think it's close with the top two, but I still think Firefly.
So here's the thing, Cowboy Bebop is like kind of like, I think it's like awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And like it has more problematic aspects so far that we've seen. Firefly not only didn't have like weird ogling, but it did feature a naked woman on screen, and it was a compelling scene. It didn't feel like it was about her naked. Like,
so let's just quickly make that comparison, right? So like, I forget her name, right? But the companion on Firefly,
she's a professional.
Morena Baccarin's character, right?
She's a professional.
She's professional. She's in control of the situation. She's in control of her sexuality. The men are always falling in love with her, and she's telling them, hey, fellas, it's professional, happy to spend some time with you, but then I'm going to move off and keep doing what I do. And there's a wisdom and spiritualism as well. Like she gives you comfort and companionship in not just in like a sexual way, but like in a emotional way. She's there for people, right?
Yeah, she ends up comforting spiritually the man of God on the ship.
Exactly.
Very beautiful scene.
And so like, and in compared with the sexuality that's shown in Cowboy Bebop, it's all like extorted and like taken from women, done to women. They're not in control of it at all. There's no emotional...
I mean, they're in control of how they dress, which is not an excuse for how they're treated, but like it is an excuse for how they look like.
Yeah. Well, there's no emotional component to it at all. There's no wisdom that comes with it, right? There's no recognition of like the power that comes with being attractive and how you can use that power for good in Morena Baccarin's case, right? And so
So I wanted to say, one thing that like I will like, it's not something bad about Firefly, but like it's a little bit unfair in this contest. Is what we watched of Firefly is a feature-length movie. I'd be curious to watch
the rest.
I'd like to watch how Firefly handles working in a much more time-constrained manner and telling the story, because Firefly episode 1/1 and 2/ the movie, which is not the movie but is a movie. The opening movie is a
confusingly named Serenity, not the feature-length film Serenity they made after this.
Maybe they deserved it. Maybe they had it. No, they didn't. Gone too soon. But yeah, no, they had a whole feature-length movie to tell a story. Yeah, and it was a great movie, but I'm just curious to see. But definitely, I would say, my experience of Firefly was generally better than my experience with Cowboy Bebop.
And to commend Cowboy Bebop again, I feel like they do so much with their 20-minute runtime, right? At building like an interesting scenario, an interesting narrative. And when they don't have time to explain stuff, I really like this. When they don't have time to explain stuff, they say, well, guess we're not explaining everything about this situation. And
Yeah.
that's just fine, right? It's fine for them that you don't know everything, you don't understand everything, and you need to suspend your disbelief a little bit.
Sometimes it's better if you have your own version of how it could be in your head.
Yeah.
And you don't have to learn in the Han Solo prequel of how he got his little dice that hang in front and where the
you know
thing
how
comes from.
he got a stupid name?
Yeah, because he didn't have a last name. So Solo.
Yeah, so
Solo.
freaking stupid. Yeah, so I find that really refreshing, right? If you go back and you listen to our episode, The Dungeon Lost and Found, on like how modern and early fantasy differ in our opinions, right? I really like how Cowboy Bebop doesn't have to lean into the modern fantasy trend of everything must be explained and the audience must understand everything all the time at every single moment. And it really generates that air of whimsy, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm starting to feel like whimsy is a positive emotion we feel when we don't understand what's going on. You know? And so you can't explain everything in the world and have whimsy. You simply cannot, you know? So, yeah.
Other last interesting bit on Cowboy Bebop, which I was not expecting. I double checked it. The show's original. It's not based on a manga.
Yeah.
I kind of assumed that it would be because so much of how the Japanese entertainment industry is the pipeline manga to anime to bad movie, and then Netflix buys it, and then Netflix makes a bad movie, and then the fans get angry. And then there's a gacha game probably. At some point, there's a gacha game full of naked women. That's where Copernicus wisdom comes in.
Oh my god! A pro. This is total tangent. A pro Magic player switched from playing Magic the Gathering to playing. I mean, he still plays Magic sometimes, but now he's mostly playing this Japanese game in which is about like mechs, and you have L rigs, which for the astute amongst you is just the word girl backwards. And they're all scantily dressed like
no,
no,
there it is.
Like one of the best Magic players in the world has reverted to naked lady card games. What's that? You know what?
Also, how did this not happen sooner? Right? How did he get all the way here and then was he never shown boobs?
So,
wait,
anyways,
hey dude, have you ever watched like anime? It's like, what's the anime? It's all over.
He's Japanese. So I don't know.
I don't know, man.
I don't know how this happened. But yeah, anyways.
Maybe he was paid for it.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a huge sponsorship.
Yeah, I can actually imagine that. But anyway, so tangent over. Yeah, it's interesting that it's original. Yeah. But I would still put Firefly higher. Of course, I've seen Firefly already, so I don't know but I might actually keep watching more Firefly. I enjoyed our time with Firefly so much. I might go back and watch
I'll check
the
out
Train
more.
Job. I think is like, I remember really liking the Train Job, and it's such a classic. When you can just take a really classic theme and still do it in an interesting way, but not in a too weird way, that's just right up my alley. You know, like. So, anyways, yeah, we're on the same page with our ranking. I would say maybe there is Star Trek that, like, as of season 2 or season 3 gets better than Futurama on the ranking. But either way, so far I feel when I watch Star Trek I want to enjoy it, and when I was watching Cowboy Bebop I was effortlessly enjoying the characters I was watching. I didn't have to want to.
Or make excuses in your head or something.
And I thought they still, I mean, it wasn't as sciencey as Star Trek, but a lot of the science in Star Trek actually doesn't make any sense. And so,
listen, Star Trek.
Give me that monkey business screenshot of an actual legit DNA sequence. It can hold me over for a few episodes.
Star Trek the Next Generation debuts with 2 space jellyfish that can manipulate matter with their mind. I was betrayed. I was betrayed and insulted in the first episode. And
hard science, my jellyfish ass.
No, not only I was shown that there's not one but 2 different species of psychic mental creatures who can control matter with their mind, and they're different. One of them is nice, and one of them is a bit of a piece of shit.
Yeah, so actually, I was talking to my mom about this because she's a big Star Trek fan, and I think one of the interesting things about Star Trek is that, like, the setting is very much like, what if in the future sci-fi was a thing, right? It doesn't have, like, today sci-fi shows take a part
or
of
an idea.
Sci-fi, and they're like, what if the future was like this, right? And I feel like Star Trek is just kind of like, what if the future? Like, what if most of our problems were solved and there was this really advanced technology? But, like, you know, to make the comparison to Brandon Sanderson, right? Brandon Sanderson, the book I'm reading, or that I just read of his, you know, it's like, we're on Metal World. everything has to do with metals. There are these 8 metals. By consuming these metals, you gain 1 power for each metal.
Elemency.
Everything in the world is divided around these metals, right? And like Star Trek doesn't have any kind of foundational principle like that. Like, oh, in this world there are 4 alien species, and they think of the world that, fire, water, air, earth, or something like that, right? It's just kind of like, oh yeah, this exists and that exists and this exists. There's no sense of like world building principles or any like niche within sci-fi it wants to constrain itself to. It's all sci-fi is on the table, and there's not really much of a guiding core principle beyond humanity is really good. Like the Federation is really good, and we've kind of solved all our problems. I will admit that is there.
I was gonna say that's kind of the thing, right?
the rest
The
of it is-
foundation is the principle.
But the rest of it is just kind of generic, right? It's not like, the technology is one way or another way. Some of it, some of it is psychic, some of it is nuclear, some of it is nano-based. It's not like any one particular discovery for the future has been highlighted and be like, oh, in a world where nanoparticles were real, what would all the cool abilities be? If only nanoparticles were real and everything else was relatively normal, Or like, oh, in virtual worlds, right? Like Altered Carbon. It's like, oh, what if we could encrypt your mind onto a stack and put it into your spine, right? How would the world be if our bodies were sleeves? And they focus on that one technology only. They don't spend like 2 episodes on like space travel and 2 episodes on nano. Yeah, it was so crazy for me. I was watching Cyberpunk Edge Runners, which is the Netflix show, and they have a space station. And I'm like, oh yeah, of course, actually, of course they would have a space station. Of course they would have a station on the moon. But it comes as such a surprise because in the cyberpunk setting is all about cybernetics, right? That's what the show is all about, right? So you're spending all this time with cybernetic technology without realizing, of course, a society that was this advanced would probably have a base on the moon where a few people live, And so, anyways, long story short, I think reviewing our entire Watch or Botch, one of the interesting things about Star Trek is that it's just kind of like, what if the future? Instead of like being really specific about one technology or about some kind of quote guiding world building principle, other than the Federation is good.
Yeah, and like we're on a boat sailing around and meeting new people.
And Cowboy Bebop feels more restrained because it's got that genre intersection. So it's like, what if we were in the future and the future was like the Old West, right?
Yeah.
And so, anyways, overall, I had a good time. I mean, some of these shows were a little bit more duds. None of them were hilarious failures like Megalopolis or something like that.
Yeah, it doesn't have the head up your ass with a crunchiness.
Yeah, but
We can't come in here and yell for an hour. Why? Why would you do this?
Narration. Stop narrating. Movie, stop. Okay. Well, anyway, so there was some good stuff.
Go back to the set.
Let's go back to the club. Anyways, but there were some good shows in here. Hope to do another Watch or Botch with you for some other stuff at some point.
Yeah.
Catch up on some other classic shows that I've missed because I was born 10 years too late to be watching them in their heyday or whatever.
In the meantime, I think, I mean, there are some ideas that about themes we can do, but I'm excited to see what comes. Do you have any plugs?
Do I have any plugs? I've been thinking the whole episode about it, and I haven't really come up with all that much, to be honest.
No?
No. I mean, all the stuff that I've discovered recently or been interacting with recently, I think I've covered.
Yeah, because like last week, with last week's episode.
Yeah, I mean, last week's episode, and I haven't really discovered that many new games or new stuff recently. Magic's new set, Edge of Eternities, I guess, is sci-fantasy themed, and it's pretty cool in my opinion. And our D&D campaign is going, I'm pretty excited about right now, but that'll be for a different podcast. So that's it. That's it for me. Not much. What about you?
Yeah, I also don't have anything in particular to recommend this time.
All right. Well, I guess not as many plugs this time as normally. That'll just about do it for episode 46, I think, but it might not be, so don't quote me on that, of A Friendly Orbit. You can find more on...
Why don't you just say other numbers, and then we can edit them in? 47, 40...
48, 49, 50, 51. That'll really fit in right with the stress of...
46? Do you think that you could be at 45, actually?
No,
Do you want to pop in a 45?
41, 42, 43, 44, 45. There. Okay. If you want more, you can find us on Apple Podcasts as well as Spotify and YouTube.com. At youtube.com/@a-friendly-orbit. I messed that up, but you get the gist. If you're feeling frisky and you want to send us some Astral Echoes, send us them at afriendlyorbit@gmail.com, which is written all one word.
46.5?
46.5.
You never know.
I didn't understand you for a second, but I got it. All right. You got to say your thing.
I gotta say my thing. All right, Ceres, I'll talk to you later. And to all of our fellow Voyagers, we will catch you out there amongst the stars.
Amongst the hyperspace gates.
Hey! Topical! Amongst the sea rats.
There we go.